Thank you for tuning into Mr. Cliff's Toy Shop. On today's review, we take a look at the Mezco DC Darkseid. Today, I'll be reviewing this figure in 6 categories: accessories, articulation, design, is it essential to your collection, functionality, and price. Once those scores are total, I'll give you my opinion if this figure is a pass or a purchase. So in a previous review, I made a statement that I was going to go back and review some of my Mezco DC figures. So the Darkseid will be the first of those figures that I'm reviewing. And probably throughout this video, I'll pop in some of the other DC characters that I plan to review a little later on down the line. So let's take a look at the accessories. So let's start off with one of the 4 faceplates. This is the one that actually comes on the Darkseid. So here is more of a neutral expression. You can see that the light is shining behind it, giving way to the red eyes. There are creases throughout the face. So it looks very good. So we'll start off with the next one, which is very similar to that one. And in this one, he has a slight grimace. Moving on to perhaps my favorite, the Grinning Teeth, the damaged face on the side. You can see the red light shining through. I really like that. And if that's not my favorite, then this one is my favorite. I don't want to mess this up. I'm a pretty big fan of Darkseid. However, as I'm looking at some of the accessories, I'm forgetting the names of things. So I don't remember what this was called. Was it the Unibeam? Please correct me in the comments below. Shame on me for not knowing this. So I truly like this accessory. Transparent throughout. Not completely translucent. However, I really like this here. Now, aside from that, Darkseid comes with 5 hands in total. I don't need to take time to go over each hand, but they are done very well. The paint is extremely clean. You can see lines of silver and black. So I really like how the gloves are done. We get base and stand, which I'm not going to take much time to cover. We receive a mother box. Really no color here, but some nice texturing. And we receive his cape. The top is very heavy. This is, well, I don't want to say this is clearly die cast, as if you can tell, but it is die cast. And the material on the inside is very thick. On the outside, it feels, it reminds me of something. I can't put my finger on it at the moment, but I'll come to it a little later. So for accessories, the highlights are clearly the 4 head sculpts, which 3 of 4 of the head sculpts are unique enough to give Darkseid his own individual look when interchanging the faceplates. The shortcomings are the hands. In total, we receive 5, and we are missing the killing glove, which in my opinion is as crucial to Darkseid as the Infinity Gauntlet is to Thanos. Aside from that, we do receive a cape, stand, and a mother box. So for overall accessories, and I think that I'm scoring this a little on the high side, I'm going to give Darkseid a 7 out of 10. So for articulation, starting with the head. Okay, let's put that back on. All right, so let's remove that for a moment. So I love when toy companies do this. So you get 2 points of movement, the neck moves, and then you have the head, which also move. So that gives you added articulation. So you're able to push the neck back and then lift the head forward. So he looks up about that much. Again, move the neck forward and the head down. And as you can see, the faceplate is popping off. And the head fully rotates. A great amount of pivot. I must admit, it is a bit loose, but not loose to where it's falling to either side on its own. So now, here's where the articulation gets a bit disappointing. So the arm is able to extend out that much. I'm fine with that. It's able to rotate a full 360. So, no upper bicep cut. You do receive rotation around the forearm, and it's able to go full 360. Single jointed elbow bending in this much. This is awful. Mezco could have, and with every other figure they have so far, maybe with the exception of that Incredible Hulk, has managed to give us better articulation than this. This will drastically limit posing, but let's just continue. You do have rotation at the wrist, and it's able to hinge up and down as well as side to side. So getting the arms out of the way, there is no movement whatsoever in the torso. It doesn't lean back. It doesn't lean forward. You do get pivot, right? And once you get around the waist, there is some waist rotation. So moving on to the legs are able to extend out that much. Not great, but I'm okay with that. They're able to kick back that far, better than what I expected. They're able to move forward this much. And I believe it's this belt that maybe, nope, it is not the belt that gets in the way. So the leg is able to extend up that much. You do get rotation. Do you have, well, there's no true, you get some range of movement at the boot. It turns left that much, right about that much. Is it single or double? Double jointed knees bending in that much. I'm okay with that. You do get full rotation at the foot. The foot is able to, let's move that out the way for a moment. It's able to go up that much, which isn't a lot. Barely comes down any. And let's see the pivot. Barely any pivot. So the articulation is weak. Aside from the head and neck, every other area of this figure, the articulation is extremely limited. So for articulation, I'm giving Darkseid a 5 out of 10. So let's take a look at design. I want to take a moment to remove the cape, and I'll place it back on at a later time. But the reason that I'm removing the cape, without it for me, Darkseid appears stumpy. He doesn't have that mass such as the Incredible Hulk, or the physique such as a Superman. He just looks very compact. It appears, at least to me, that he has the torso of a small person and the arms and legs of an average sized person. So it just makes this figure appear or looks a bit fat and diesel at the same time. And it's not a look that I particularly care for. Now, when you put on the cape, I feel that the cape is able to hide sort of that shortness and that stockiness and those weird proportions. And it could just be me. So for design, I can see where Mezco inspired or took some of their inspiration from. A lot of this has to do with Darkseid's modern take. Mezco obviously made some changes. And let's admit, Darkseid has been through some changes throughout the years, whether the new DC 52, he's been in a few video games, Injustice. I think we had a different Darkseid for the Icon line and a different for DC Collectibles, if I'm not mistaken. However, the best looking Darkseid in action figure form, for me anyway, is the original DC Classics universe. I really like that Darkseid figure. So for design for this one, I don't hate it. I definitely don't love it. And I'm going to give Darkseid a 7 out of 10. So is Darkseid essential to your collection? So this is the only 6-inch Darkseid that Mezco has released so far. I'm pretty sure, being that they have the mold, they will find a way to give us another version of Darkseid. However, outside of Mezco, there are a few offerings. So starting with the DC Universe Classics, which in my opinion is the best Darkseid action figure to date. We have Storm Collectibles, which is also putting out a Darkseid based on the new Injustice video game. I'm not sure if it's part 1 or part 2. And we have 2 versions from DC Collectibles, DC Icons. And there's another version of Darkseid that I have, a much larger figure. I am not sure what line it's from. I want to say the Arkham, but I know Darkseid was not in that game. But it's a very large figure. So if you just collect Mezco, I suppose that this will be essential. However, if you are looking for that one Darkseid to fit in your collection, in my opinion, this is not it. Especially based on the pricing, which we'll get into a little bit later. So as far as this being essential to your collection, I'm going to give this Darkseid a 6 out of 10. So for functionality, let's take a look at the head. I'm going to pop it off for a moment. So Darkseid comes with 4 faceplates. The head remains the same. It is held in place via magnet and snaps on very simply. With one of the head sculpts, they are falling off remarkably easy. This one seems to do the job and stay attached. So Darkseid has a light up feature. This screw, it's here, and it comes with 2 batteries. So using my Hot Toy screwdriver, I'm going to remove the batteries, remove this screw and install the battery so I can show the light up feature. Okay, so I got the batteries installed and that was very quick for me. Some people think that I hate light up features on action figures. That is not true. I hate when the light up features are extremely cumbersome and you have many batteries to install in several parts of the figure. This, 2 batteries in one area of the figure. And the switch to light it up is here. Just going to use this to turn it on. Is it down or is it up? And that's how it looks. So now let's attach, not this head scope. There's another head scope which can use the light up feature. Oops. This one right here. So I'm going to attach it and show you what it looks like. So this is what it looks like attached and the light is shining through so well. So this may actually be the head sculpt that I keep on the figure. Let's take a look at what it looks like with this particular one. And this here is so bright, I don't even need to turn out the lights. So let's just move on. Okay, so I'm definitely going to need to turn the lights out. Okay, so the light reaches till about here. Right where the optic blast sort of expands. And that's really where it cuts off. So it doesn't carry all the way through here. I'm not going to say that I'm disappointed. It would have just been so dope if the light up feature would have carried all the way through. And maybe there was one of 2 ways that they could have done so. The first would be either using a stronger light. The second would be using clear plastic. Perhaps with using the red plastic, it's easier for the light to get lost. And I'm not stating this from fact. I'm just throwing my opinion into a ring for something that I truly do not have the knowledge of. All right, lights back on. Let's put the head back on. So I mentioned in the articulation department that I truly like the head and neck combo. So, right, so working my way down, this area here could have used more engineering. This piece is barely functional. I don't even know if I want to call this 30%. I mean 30 degrees, I'm sorry. It's barely functional. So here you have a floating piece. This is also made out of die cast. And the figure, I forgot to mention this, I believe is made out of polystone. So the arms, the legs, maybe not the faceplate, and maybe portion of the body because the figure is extremely heavy. And there's a lot of die cast as well throughout. maybe the term a lot was the wrong word, but there's definitely die cast throughout the figure. Another area to where it's disappointing is the articulation in the feet. So looking at the overall functionality of the figure, the light up feature works extremely well with one head sculpt, as good as it can get. With this particular head sculpt, not so much. However, I'm not taking points away from that. I think considering Mezco still did a good enough job. Could have been better. Yeah, could have been better. Not going to make excuses. So for functionality, I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. So before we dive into pricing, I need to go back and correct myself. I believe in the functionality department that I stated that the light up feature works for 2 of the head sculpts, and that's incorrect. The light up feature works for all of the head sculpts. So now to move on to pricing. And for pricing, I decided to give Darkseid the evil grin, because this figure is priced at $180. So let's take a look at what he comes with for that price. He comes with 4 faceplates, 5 hands, a stand, a cape, and 1 accessory to hold in his hand. There is die-cast components on this figure. There is polystone on this figure. That I get, and I can understand why that increases the cost of this Mezco figure. Typically, most Mezco figures are priced at $80. This is an additional $100. So it went over being another 100% of the cost of Mezco's, of predominantly all of the Mezco figures. So now for the price point of $180, is it worth it? In my opinion, absolutely not. There was no way that I was going to pay $180 for this. I waited, and I was actually able to grab this for $120 shipped. Now, the $120, that's a much better price point for this particular figure. And if I was scoring pricing off of the $120 that I paid for this, I would perhaps price this figure around a 7 or an 8. However, fair is fair. I'm going to price it at its original markup price, which was $180. And for that price, I'm giving Darkseid a 4 out of 10. In my opinion, he's not big enough, or he's just not designed well enough. I get that this is an action figure, but the overall anatomy of this figure bothers me without the cape. In addition, he's missing accessories such as the killing glove, something that I feel is crucial to this character. And when you compare this figure to a Blade or a Punisher, it just doesn't seem fair for what they cost and what you get for Darkseid. So is he a pass or a purchase? For $180, Darkseid is an absolute pass. Again, I paid $120 for him, so I feel for the $120 price point, he is a purchase. So that will give Darkseid an overall Cliff score of 35 out of 60. Here's Darkseid alone. Here's Darkseid next to Mezco's Superman the Red Sun. Here's Darkseid next to Mezco Black Adam. Oh, I was able to get that to stand. And here's Darkseid next to Mezco PX exclusive Deathstroke. So I will be reviewing all of these figures at some point, along with their hero counterparts. I'm just taking this Deathstroke out of the box. I gotta say that he looks good. So I want to thank everyone for tuning into this video, and I hope to see you during the next review.